This is a reading from the book Raised with the One Light, Weekly Commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. Week 12, we are children of the light. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. It is common for people to perceive themselves according to their present realities. A person in ill health says, I am ill. Few say, I am well. It is my body that is suffering. People in a low income bracket say, I am poor. Only the unusual person will say, though outwardly I live in poverty, inwardly I am wealthy. Thus, when it comes to moral and spiritual development, people commonly identify themselves with their weaknesses and their mistakes. They consider it almost a sign of humility to say, I am a sinner. Though in effect, what this means is that they identify themselves with their sinfulness, not with the soul's power to transcend all limitations in God. The great masters, including Jesus Christ, have always emphasized the divine potential of mankind. To encourage us, they address us as children of light, not of darkness. The Bible and the Gospel of St. John, chapter 3, makes the point that our true home is not the mud of this earth, but the light of heaven. No man hath ascended up to heaven, it tells us, but him that came down from heaven. This passage continues. Even so, the Son of Man who is in heaven, emphasizing that Jesus, though he lived on earth, is perceived by the eye of wisdom as conscious, even in human form, of his true reality in heavenly spheres. The way to know God is to live in godly consciousness and not to bewail our imperfection and our distance from God. Jesus said, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And the Bhagavad Gita states, seekers of union with the Lord find him dwelling in their own hearts. But those who, lacking in wisdom, seek him with impure motives cannot perceive him, however much they struggle to do so. If you want to know God, Paramhansa Yogananda said, live in the thought that you have him already. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, 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 Om.
Good morning, everyone. Dhuti coming to you from the land of St. Francis in Umbria, Assisi, Italy. Welcome on this beautiful first day of spring. And here we are talking about children of light, and a very appropriate topic for today. Also, they've just celebrated Holi in India, and I don't know if you have ever experienced it or seen it, but many of my friends are there and posted pictures. It's just so much joy and light and hope and spring in the, kind of colors, celebration of the colors. And then we have the just the birth of Easter is coming up, and so it's appropriate time to be thinking about light, and it's a central part of our teachings when you think about it. In the Festival of Light, many quote, first of all, the Festival of Light in the the first song, out of the darkness came the light. And we have the expanding light, we have the temples of light, we have light bearers, and light is a resounding feature for us in our lives here. So I'm going to read some quotes of Master Most of this is from the autobiography of the yogi. Actually, before I go into that, I'm going to read our Whispers reading, which I almost forgot. This is Whispers number 33. Demand to travel by the one highway of realization. Our one Father, we are traveling by many true paths toward thy one abode of light. Show us the one highway of common realization, where all bypaths of theological beliefs meet. Make us feel that the diverse religions are branches of thy one tree of truth. Bless us that we enjoy the intuition-tested, ripe, luscious fruits of self-knowledge, hanging from the many branches of true scriptural teachings. In thy one temple of silence, we all sing to thee a chorus of many-voiced religions. Teach us to chant in harmony with thy love's manifold expressions. Let our chorus of souls rouse thee to break thy vow of cosmic silence and lift us onto thy lap of universal, immortal understanding. So really a key piece here is smriti, remembrance, divine remembrance, remembering that we really are children of light. We forget because we get bogged down in all the darkness that is surrounding us, assaulting us, it seems. So that has been a troubling thing these days, especially. I have a Ukrainian refugee staying with me, and it's well, actually, I'll say what could be construed as a joke. We laughed so hard when she read this text to me the other morning. She had, first of all, she left Kiev when the bombing started, and she went to her family's village, and she managed to get on a bus out of Ukraine about a week or so ago, and so we're all, helping getting her settled here at Ananda. She's a devotee. And I'm trying not to read the news, but it's hard not to sometimes see some of the headlines, and it's just shocking. So this, well, first I'll tell the joke, and then I'll read Master's quotes, because what Master said, he had a vision, and he got great consolation from what Divine Mother or the Lord told him in the vision. Okay, but back to my friend Oksana's text. Her friend wrote her and said, well, I was in Kiev and they bombed it. So I went to another city, I don't know which one, and they bombed that. And then she said, maybe I should go to Moscow. And Oksana and I just laughed, because just to have the sense of humor doing all that, like if I go to Moscow, maybe they'll bomb Moscow. Okay. So Master was praying. This was around World War II. This was during World War II. Lord, I prayed, why dost thou permit such suffering? An instant answer came in the form of a vision of the actual European battlefields. And the voice said, you will see that these scenes are a cosmic motion picture. My heart was still not comforted. The divine voice went on. Creation is light and shadow both. The good and evil of Maya must ever alternate in supremacy. The way of escape is through wisdom. That would also mean meditation. The tragedy of death is unreal. The cosmic motion picture is a mechanism. A voice spoke as though from within the light. It is producing the picture of your body. Behold, your form is nothing but light. I then saw that the light seemed like a divine replica of the light beams streaming out of the projection booth in a cinema house and manifesting as pictures on the screen. Then the Lord said, My children are of the light. They will not sleep forever in delusion. Deep insight came with the personal visions and their accompanying words of consolation I had received from the Lord. One's values are profoundly changed when he is finally convinced that creation is only a vast motion picture, and that not in it, but beyond it, lies his own reality. Despite the many visions I have had, none was ever more singular. My illusion of a solid body was completely dissipated, and my realization deepened that the essence of all objects is light. So there you have it. We are children of the light. I'll go on to read another experience that Yogananda had. Soul and mind instantly lost their physical bondage and streamed out like a fluid-piercing light from my every pore. My sense of identity was no longer narrowly confined to a body, but embraced by the circumambient atoms. The unifying light alternated with materializations of form. The Spirit of God, I realized, is exhaustless bliss. His body is countless tissues of light. So, I guess I don't know if this is in the same place, but I want to read this because it kind of is the crux of how do we deal with it. You know, we can mentally say, okay, intellectually I understand this is true, but I'm still caught in this motion picture, and I'm an actor in it, and I'm doing a great job of emoting all the different things that my character needs to emote at times, and it seems so real. And when we go through that portal of death, um, we will look back on this life and it will seem like a dream, like we've woken up from a dream. Life truly is a dream. So Yogananda goes on to say, you are not the controller of the destiny of the world. Do not worry uselessly about the terrible things that are happening. You must realize that God never forsakes the righteous, and he loves all equally well. And through his love, we shall see a new world. He who has given life will again rehabilitate the world in a better way. You must help the world by your constructive thoughts. So this is a key. Our prayers, our thoughts, our visualizations, they do make a difference. And in the higher yugas, the higher ages, Yogananda mentioned that even the weather and nature are in harmony. Everything is tranquil and peaceful, because people's consciousness and vibration and their thoughts are higher. So just in the same way that we can affect the consciousness of the world, and meditation is key. This is Colleen from New York. Oh, hello, we're having Sunday service. Let me hang her up. Excuse me, I don't know if you could hear that phone call coming in on WhatsApp. Um, so years ago, I was first introduced to meditation, well, Eastern meditation, through TM, and I practiced TM before I found Yogananda. And they were doing an experiment where they were sending groups of meditators to live together in different cities, and very strong practice, meditating twice a day, minimum 15 minutes a day, but even that much is a huge amount. And they found after, I don't know if it was 5 years, that the crime rates went down, uh, accidents, everything possible, uh, all was diminished. And because people were consciously meditating and helping to raise the vibrations. So, this is how we can help. And I know we're doing it the minute this all started. It was really the next day they started having prayer vigils here in Ananda, Assisi, and I know all over the world we're doing. Everybody's doing different things to um, help ease the situation. Let me just look here and see if I actually. Um, yeah, so we can do our part to saturate the world um, with uplifted thoughts and vibrations, and even things like what we eat and how we behave in the workplace or with our family, being kind and thoughtful and caring and serviceful. All these qualities can help uplift the planet. Besides it, help uplift us for sure. I haven't even mentioned music. Usually, most of my talks I spend half the time talking about music. Uh, that goes unsaid. I have the power of music too. So all of the things that we can do to bring in light and we are children of light, and we have a responsibility uh, to share our light. And even if it's, I'm not talking about proselytizing or becoming teachers or ministers, whatever. If that's your karma, great. But I'm just saying, by the way we live and um, our practices and behaviors. And we're not perfect, obviously. We all still have desires and attachments and all these things. That's the Maya um, of life. It captures us, but it will fall away. Swami, who was liberated in this lifetime, I'm certain, he he had attachments, and he talked to Master about it, and Master said, "Don't worry about it." He desires and attachments and habits, or whatever. I don't know particulars, but and Master said, "Don't worry about it. When ecstasy comes, everything goes." I mean, is that right? Yeah. So, in other words, when you get to that place, which we get to ultimately through meditation, we have to put our, we have to put our miles in, and 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 service. This path is primarily service and meditation and sharing and music. I was talking to this young woman, Oksana, who was 38, and she was, an analyst or something in some company in Kiev, which she's not even sure if the company's still running. And now she's working in the kitchen here and in the gardens, and she's just loving being at Ananda. Um, and I was talking to her. Um, uh, I forgot what I was going to say. Um, Oh yeah, about Ananda, and if it's if how if you want to live here and embrace this lifestyle of living in community, which I've lived in for 44 years, and I can't imagine living any other way. Um, and I don't actually live in community. I live 4 kilometers from the Ananda Center, which is a retreat. But within this 10-mile stretch of the road here, there's 150 maybe people, and we have places where we gather. It's not all about the service at the retreat, but about half the people are actively serving, but it's an Ananda bubble, and it just is amazing what living in community can do, and how it can help you and support you in doing all the things we know we need to do in order to be free. It's all comes about to being free from our desires, from our attachments, being clear channels of light and love. And so, I mean, I really feel like I just knew a small piece of Swamiji because I mean, I think he hid from people. What a great soul he was. He was just down to earth. He was out there in the river, in the early days, all swimming together and, having just, he was in his later days, he was the wise sage who was uh, free. And when he spoke, and had the great pleasure of spending the last 3 years of his life with him, traveling kind of behind him, not in his immediate circle, but I was kind of one of the trailing stars, not stars, but so I did music in India and followed him to India and back to the US too. But anyway, just to watch him, he would he'd come out onto the stage and he'd have people on each arm. He didn't want to use a walker, and so there was always somebody there to help him walk. And he, don't get old, and he'd kind of laugh at this predicament of having this body that wasn't doing what it, what, what he wanted it to do. And then he'd launch into being this incredible, clear channel of master. I felt like it was master sitting there. And every talk he would give in the Pune community, he was giving talks every weekend, and then also traveling around India. So yeah, he didn't rest. He was he was out there giving and sharing, and practically till his last breath. And just seeing how the difference in 40 years from when I first, you know, went to Ananda or met him. And yeah, I knew he was a great teacher, but I didn't know how great. So I've been so blessed to have the music be a huge part of my life, and um, for me, that's been yeah. It's hard to explain, and those of you who appreciate the music and don't need an explanation. Um, so music just has a way of penetrating deep into your psyche, and coupled with the wisdom that's in his words, the sermons and song, the messages, and inspiration, and the melodies and the arrangements all being really just super consciously gifted. Now, Swamiji said that this was not him. This was part of being a channel of light for him. He was um, uh, just an open channel. And he made it sound so simple. So, for instance, his advice was to whatever you do, do it with non-attachment. This is not my book, not my play or my song. It's not mine. And that's where the topic of self-control comes in. He said that's why he chose that affirmation to go with this talk, because it takes self-control to not buy into that. And also about non-attachment, don't be attached to your mistakes and your habits, because that really helps us to go backwards. If we think of ourselves as, you know, failures or sinners, or um, we have to just realize it's all part of the game. And when we blow it, that's part of life. There's just no getting around it. That's the Maya, the yin and the yang, the positive, negative, good, bad, black, white, opposites. In fact, I have to tell this story about Swamiji. I love this. In the early days when Ananda Village was just being formed, um, and Swamiji was teaching San Francisco, and it was the hippie movement. It was the height of it. In fact, it was yoga that brought um, the kind of the hippie movement. It was because people were recognizing that sense of um, freedom, peace, and love, and not being attached. And um, um, so there was a lot. There was a lot happening in San Francisco, and there was a man named Stephen Gaskin. He had a great following of people, and he was a teacher in that area as well. And he and his followers. I think he was a philosopher around the same age as Swami. I don't think that he was following any particular guru or religion, but his message was appealing to many people. So they all took off in school buses and drove cross country to Tennessee, where they found land. And I actually had a great cookbook, vegan cookbook they put out, and also a great birthing book. Both of my kids were born at home, and I devoured their home birth spiritual midwifery. It was called midwifery. So he brought beautiful spiritual principles into also into life. But Swamiji was talking about him, and he said, Stephen Gaskin, I I admire him. He, let's see if I can find the quote. Sorry. One side note as I'm looking for this quote is when Ananda burned basically to the ground in 1976, a whole bunch of people from the farm came and helped rebuild, and it was very, very beautiful to see that. Um, okay. So he says, so Swami, when he was describing Stephen, he said, You know, we couldn't have been more opposite. He was really into rock and roll, and I loved that he was completely, totally into what he did. Um, he was genuine, and Swami said that we were like opposite sides of a coin. But Swamiji respected him and loved him, and he even choked up when he was talking about him. And then he says, "People don't have to be just like you to be genuine or to be doing things for God. God has so many different songs to sing. The important thing is that you not do it as an imitation of other people, that you do it because this is what you feel." Someone once asked Swamiji what was his favorite music, and he said, "I was startled to hear myself say mine." I imagine the person interviewing him felt that way too. But he said, it's not that I think it's the best music, but it speaks to me. It's from my heart. So, yes, it's my favorite music. And so, that everything that you do, this is another quote from him, everything that you do should be your favorite. Not because it's better than somebody else. Don't compare it to other people. But if it sings your song, if it dances your dance, if it expresses your thoughts, this is what you owe to the world and to God. It may be nothing but cleaning shoes, but if you do it with devotion. And then there's this story of Rabindranath Tagore, who's a great poet. And the story is there was a beggar on the side of the road, and he saw a great carriage coming towards him, and he realized it was the king, and he got so excited. Oh my gosh, I am king's about to come. What will he give me? What can I ask for? And the carriage pulled up, and the king said, "What do you have for me?" And the beggar was taken aback, but he looked in his pouch and he gave the king one grain of sand. I mean, not sand, excuse me, rice, one grain of rice. And the king went on his way, and the beggar that night, that when he went home and he was emptying his pouch, he found one gold, and he realized then that if he had given his all, he would have gotten back much more. And so, of course, that's an allegory for God. If we can give God our love, everything we do, how shall I serve thee, Lord, with every breath I breathe? How shall I love thee? How shall I seek thee? How shall I worship thee? In everything that we do, we have to remember smriti, divine remembrance, who we really are. We aren't this particular personality. Think of how many people we have been. Billions? Well, maybe not billions of people, but if we started off as rocks and have been evolving all this time, we're really close to the finish line, though. That's just the good news. Many, many lifetimes. So we've done it all, been it all, seen it all. And if we're here and this makes any sense to anybody, what I'm saying, then um, yeah, you've been around the block quite a few times. So again, don't be attached to your mistakes and habits. God loves you. God loves all of us equally. Be a child of the light. Bit by bit, we'll get there. Don't identify with the world. Be in it, but not of it. Keep God always in your heart. So now I think we'll, I don't know how you're doing